Hello, and welcome to episode 63 of the Law Firm Marketing Mastery Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Christopher Small, and I am excited for today's content. But before we get to that, as always, why don't we talk a little bit about what's going on? A lot going on, a lot of moving parts in the business. I've been setting up a bunch of sales meetings with chiropractors and other kind of business people to create some referral relationships over the past couple weeks, and that's getting me really busy. It's a 2 meeting process, and as I've been reaching out to people, I've been getting about a 60% response rate. So that equates to a lot of meetings, which is good. It's good for business, and it's good for everyone, because we're going to get the opportunity to help out our referral partners, their clients. We're going to get to, the chance to provide them a great service. So it's good all around, but that's keeping me super busy. Also working on Law Firm Confidential. I've been outlining the sales process that I've been going through step by step over there. And so, the people that are members over Law Firm Confidential are getting an opportunity to implement the same system, and they should be seeing the same results. And by the way, if you are interested in Law Firm Confidential, you can go to lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/confidential to get some more information on that. It's basically a membership site that I've created where I deep dive into starting a law firm from scratch. So, it's been going on for about, 3 months now, probably. So there's quite a bit of content in there. There's a forum in there that's relatively active. And I'm only going to open up the site for new members probably once every quarter or so at the most. So if you want to get notified the next time I open it up, which will actually be in about a week or so, then you want to go to lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/confidential and fill that out. So before we get, here, let's just talk about what's going on today. So I have had the opportunity to interview a really cool young lady. Her name is Stacey Burke, and she was a personal injury attorney down in Houston. Has since kind of moved over into the marketing and consulting side for law firms. But I think her ideal client, from her perspective, is a little bit of a bigger group. I think she does help solo and small firms, but she also has some experience with really big firm marketing and management opportunities. So it was a great conversation. I really learned a lot. There's a bunch of nuggets in there. Everything that we talked about will obviously be in the show notes. But, without further ado, let's just get to the interview. All right. See you on the other side. Today, I'm excited to introduce a very special guest on Law Firm Marketing Mastery. This lovely young lady is in some ways very much like me. She's a lawyer who fell in love with marketing and the business side of owning and running a law firm. Now, in addition to being a lawyer, she spends most of her time helping other law firms get more clients, hone their processes and procedures to effectively service these new clients, and otherwise help law firm owners make more money. Stacey Burke, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So I found you, I guess, we sort of met on Twitter. I think I follow you on Twitter, and saw you tweeting some things and thought, hey, you know what, you'd be a great guest for the show. So I really am excited to have you here, and I'm glad that you could come on.
Yes, I am very active on Twitter. It still is, I would say, above all others, my favorite social network as far as reaching a broad audience.
Yeah, great. And actually, we'll dive right into Twitter in a second. But before we get to that, why don't you I gave a little short biography of you, but why don't you tell, me or us, a little bit more about who you are?
Okay. I'm Stacey Burke. I am a native fourth-generation Houstonian, and I live and have practiced law in Houston, Texas. I was licensed in 2001, so this is about to be my 13th anniversary in practicing law. I was a personal injury plaintiff's trial lawyer for the majority of my career, handling maritime injury cases, motor vehicle accident cases, and general personal injury. Toward the end of my career, I transitioned into mass tort and multi-district litigation as well. Over time, and as sort of my personal circumstances changed, I wanted to find a way to contribute business to the law firms that I worked for and use sort of my natural skill set to help them make more money and thus me more money. And so that came about as far as running the blog for the first law firm that I worked for, handling all of their business development in Houston, managing media contacts and communications. And so toward the end of my career being in-house at law firms, I had transitioned away entirely from litigation and was basically a chief marketing officer and the point of contact for business development for a law firm with 8 offices in 6 cities. So it was a pretty big job, and I loved every minute of it.
Cool, cool. And then eventually, though, you transitioned into what you now have, which is kind of your own consulting law firm, marketing consulting firm.
That's right. So I formed my own PC, as many lawyers do, while they're still working for another firm for a variety of reasons in 2010. And I did a little bit of consulting on the side for other law firms that was non-competitive with the firms that I worked for. But I began this as my full-time business endeavor in April of 2013. So just celebrated my year anniversary 2 months ago, and I've already worked with probably at least 30 or 40 law firms, and it's been a blast, really a lot of fun.
Cool, cool, great. So I'm interested in kind of your process too. So tell me what happens when someone, like if I would call you, and I would say, hey, you know what, I need help. Like what's the process for kind of figuring out where people need help, like with their firms?
Right. So some people, every law firm is different, and the beauty of being in sort of a niche industry on the marketing side is that as an attorney and a former litigator and a former chief marketing officer, I can offer expertise that's unique to the legal world. Whereas if you go to any other random vendor or agency, it'll be one of many things they do that they will treat very similarly to all of the other aspects of what they're marketing. And so I sort of come up with a unique plan for each firm that I work with based on their budget. Everyone has a different budget, their time frame, and we come up with an order of priority of what they need. Sometimes they have no idea what they need, and I will tell them what they need in the order in which they're going to implement it. Some people have me come in and just do an audit of their entire business. I do business audits for law firms where I go on site and audit every aspect of their practice and give them advice on how to implement changes. I do digital assets audits where, I look at everything their existing vendors or the firm itself has created and implemented and let them know what's working and what's not working and what they should change. It's always nice to have a fresh set of eyes on what you're spending money on, just to make sure that you continue to hold your vendors very accountable to you for the money you spend with them.
Right. Okay. And I know every firm is different, and I guess just kind of from a general business standpoint, do you find that lawyers encounter some of the same challenges? And I'm talking, I guess, more from a mindset, because when we're in law school, right, they don't teach us the business of law. They don't teach us how to run a business effectively. Do you find that with your clients that you run into kind of those kind of problems where everybody wants to be a good lawyer, but they don't understand that there is some business acumen that's required if you want to run a successful law firm?
I would say that lawyers are really smart by and large, and I think they do realize that it's necessary to implement certain procedures, protocols, and software to run their firm right. The problem is that their focus and their heart is in representing their clients and handling either litigation or transactional work for which they've been hired, and so they don't place an equal priority on actually running their business. And unless they have someone in-house who's really good and really devoted to their books, to their technology, to their case management software, to their infrastructure and staffing and monitoring all of that, which most small to medium-sized firms do not have that, they will wind up with a mess on their hands where they're making a lot of money and they're amazing trial lawyers, but they haven't been able to devote the time necessary to optimize the running of their actual business, the law firm as a business.
Right. Okay. All right. So I want to kind of, I guess, transition a little bit. I want to go back. All right. I want to go back in time to when you were, you were working as a lawyer. And, when you were talking a little bit about your background, you mentioned there was a time when you realized, or when you thought to yourself that you wanted to give more to the firm than just, I guess, providing legal services in the way of client acquisition, I guess, for lack of a better word. What were some of the things that you did at that time to kind of make that transition from technician to more of like a rainmaker status with your firm? What were some of the things that, did you read books? Did you talk to mentors? What kind of things did you do to make that transition?
It's really an excellent question, and I appreciate you asking it that way, because I think many young lawyers in their first 5 to 10 years of practice do want to find a way to make themselves invaluable to the firms within which they work. The best thing that you can do, because as a litigator, you're always replaceable, but as someone who can make it rain and bring in business, you have a value distinct and apart from your actual lawyering skills. So I think it makes you have more longevity in your career with a firm and potential for advancement and bonus compensation if you have these skill sets as far as business development and marketing. So what I did to transition more away from litigation to being a rainmaker, I guess you could say, is I became very involved in professional associations where I was networking on a regular basis, including serving in leadership positions, event chair positions, and attending a variety of continuing legal education events around the country that were specific to the practice areas for which we were trying to bring in business. And I would like to mention that, as a lawyer, if you know about contracts, which you should because everyone has to take it in law school, you have the ability to negotiate the terms of your employment with your employer. And so at least on the plaintiff side, we are able to be compensated if our firm chooses to do that for the amount of business that we bring in. And so if you devote a significant amount of your time to business development and new case acquisition, whether it's offline, online, however you're handling it, you should lobby to make sure that you have an origination interest for bringing in the case. A certain percentage of the fee is yours because the firm would not have that business without you. So I sort of began by attending professional association events and getting extremely involved in increasing their network and increasing their referral sources, as well as attending events. And I sort of, when blogging was first becoming in vogue, this is going to make me sound old, when it was first becoming in vogue for law firms, my bosses knew about my public relations journalism background. That's what my undergraduate degree was in, and I have obviously my legal writing skills from law school, and they said, we really want you to manage this portion of our marketing. We want you to learn how to run and handle the blog. And so I became self-taught in search engine optimization and blogging, and gradually transitioned into social media as that picked up steam. And that's sort of what is now really the most crucial for firms that want to have a digital presence, is the ability to engage in appropriate content marketing and social sharing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's great. That's kind of what I figured, right? Because that's what you have to do. When I specifically, so when you talk about these events that you were a part of, and the professional groups that you participated in, were these were they specific to PI lawyers, plaintiffs side lawyers, or would you get involved in other, if you're doing maritime law, for example, there may be other associations that you would want to get in, be a part of, that you want to participate in, that would have the people that would potentially refer you business in some way, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yes, it depends on the project that I'm working on. I once worked on a very large scale statewide project here in Texas where our target client base were medical professionals who are historically not necessarily friends of plaintiffs' lawyers who represent injured parties in medical malpractice cases. So we had to come up with a strategy where we could target them and explain to them the type of litigation that we were involved with, and go to where they were to meet them. And you do that by strategic sponsorships and strategic partnerships with, their industry events and law firms that traditionally represent them on an ongoing basis in transactional work. We are not looking to compete with them. We're looking to acquire a different type of case that they would never work on. And so, yes, you build your network up with healthcare lawyers to get access to their clients if they think that it's a valuable service we can provide to their clients, as well as sponsor and attend industry events in the medical field where you have a trade show booth, and we made an interactive exhibit where people could kind of touch screen and scroll through our documentation of what this legislation was and why we were challenging it and how they could get involved and what the statistics were. And we had a tremendous amount of positive response from it.
Right. Okay. That's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for, because I feel like a lot of times, when, for example, I would classify you as a high level kind of marketer, a high level business person. And for the people out there that are just trying to get the hang of it, talking about networking and things like that, it can be glossed over what we actually do, because it becomes second nature. For example, like you just said, if you have a healthcare kind of initiative or you have a healthcare bent to your practice, you would try to target attorneys that have those clients but don't represent them in the way that you do, right? And that is the classic way that you can reach out to people to, create business opportunities for yourself and for your firm. And yeah, so I really appreciate that answer, because I think that's the kind of stuff that happens all the time but doesn't necessarily get talked about often, because by the time you're at that level, it's intuitive that you would do that.
For sure. And it becomes second nature, like you're saying. But say that you are a family lawyer that specializes in they do a lot of collaborative processes now in family law. And say you work with collaborative child custody disputes. So I spoke with a woman the other day, and she says that her goal is to transition her practice away from being a little bit more adversarial to bringing the parents together. And she's a counselor and a mediator as well as an attorney, and helping them with the collaborative process of planning what's best for their child together. And so she asked me how she could get the word out that that's an option and increase her business. And so that is way outside of the traditional putting up a website, because if people don't know services like that are available, they're certainly not going to be searching for it online. Right. So, she could target churches and counselors and even gyms with information about that this is an option for parents who want to save money and work together to come up with the best solution for their child in a non-adversarial way.
Right, exactly. And then after that, right, the hardest part is actually just getting the guts to reach out to those people and go talk to them, right?
Right. Well, and you come up with a strategy, because you don't want to overwhelm your business. She's a solo, and I work with a lot of solo and small firm lawyers, and you want to have the infrastructure set up to handle the demand you're going to drive towards your business as well. And so you start off slow and you spend a limited amount of money and you see what works and what doesn't.
Right.
And then you build sort of from there your comprehensive strategy across the year.
Right. That's great. And you know what I really like about that answer that you may not even have picked up on is that there's uh, there's no doubt in your voice and your tone, and I'm sure in your mind that if you would pursue those business development strategies, that business would come. You're not. For, what was interesting is that your answer goes from those business development strategies to you need to make sure that you can handle all the business that's going to come in, right?
Yes,
Which
I mean, I so often get lawyers that contact me that are, ready to drop a big pile of money on advertising and marketing, and they know exactly what kind of case they want. And I said, okay, well, who's going to answer the phone when this person calls? What questions are they going to ask them, and how are they going to convert them from a lead into a customer of your business, which is a client? And
right,
they haven't thought about that part. And so
right.
I do maybe presume that the majority of my strategies will be effective because I work until they are. But you have to assume that you're going to be at some point successful and have the infrastructure set up to support the amount of money that you spend, or your return on investment will be significantly decreased.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing too is I think the strategies that you've been talking about so far, I think those are effective. I think those have been proven time and time again. Those are kind of some of your traditional um, business development strategies. And they do work. And I think I don't know if in your experience you find this, but I feel like when I talk to people, they um, they quit before they even get started. They don't even take the step to get out there and set that first meeting with a counselor, like in your family law example, to go and talk to someone. They don't even get there because they just assume that it won't work, when in fact it can be extremely effective. And in those cases, in that specific kind of an instance, you don't even have a tremendous outlay of money. You have to spend some time because you want to prepare what your presentation is going to be like. You want to think about what you're going to talk to the person about and what the next steps would be. But you don't even have to spend a lot of money to go there. You just have to spend some time and then have the guts to go out there and make contact with people and put yourself out there to see what happens.
Right. I mean, and that is definitely the very inexpensive way to do it. I mean, in a city like Houston, where I am, that the marketplace is so large, in order to reach a broader audience, sometimes it is valuable to send out a direct mail piece that explains what your process is and why it's valuable, and then follow up with the people that you send it to ask if they received it and see if they're interested. It sort of saves you the legwork, because it's very unlikely that a counselor is going to schedule an appointment with you during their busy day where they won't be making
Right.
money by meeting with you to listen to a pitch.
Right.
But they might read what you send in the mail that says, two parents who both love their children, but they're arguing. Here's how I can help.
Right. Definitely.
And so, print is not dead.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. 100%. So let's, I want to transition again just slightly. Let's say, and I love getting free advice on my show. Okay. So let's say I'm a new lawyer, right? Or I'm not necessarily a new lawyer, I guess, but I'm opening a firm, right? A new firm. What are maybe like a couple of things that you would suggest that need to be done immediately or first from a business development standpoint? What would, or if you were opening a firm again, a new firm, what are some of the things that you would do today, kind of first steps to make sure that you set a good foundation to have a successful firm?
Some of the basics sound really easy, but they're also really easy to overlook, because the eye is always on the prize, which is the bottom line, which is the money. Okay? I mean, that is where our minds go, because we know we have to make X to meet our overhead every month, so we have to just start off with finding cases in order to meet that number.
Right.
But I think that it is very important to make yourself look like a legitimate entity for people who will investigate you before hiring you, to have a decent looking digital presence. I would say a website is crucial. You will want to have a domain name for your website that is either your law firm name or specific to what you practice. You will need a new professionally designed logo and business cards. You don't want to meet with people and say, oh, hi, I started my own firm, but I don't have any cards yet. How can you do business development without business cards? I go through boxes and boxes a year myself. And you give them to everyone. Everyone you meet is a potential opportunity, whether they need to hire you or their cousin or their, babysitter. You never know what the periphery of someone that you meet, what the periphery of all of their contacts might need as far as legal services. So it's always good to give cards out and interact. I would say that you will need a checking account and credit card that are specific to your firm, and potentially a line of credit for backup if during the first few months you're not going to turn over a profit. That's always the case with new businesses. You need to be prepared for that. You also need professional liability insurance.
Right. Okay.
So things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
are more from a business setup standpoint. From a marketing standpoint, I can tell you more.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about, okay, so you got all that set up, and now, like you said, now it's time to pay the bills and meet that overhead, maybe put a little money in your own pocket. What are some of the things, and I know, I guess this is going to vary, I guess, depending on what your practice area is. But let's say for kind of a consumer-based practice, I don't know, we can just choose randomly. I use estate planning a lot when I talk about examples, but because in another life I would own an estate planning law firm, because I think that those can be relatively lucrative relatively quickly. But let's say you own an estate planning law firm. What are some of the things that you would do, at the outset to start, getting some clients?
So whether you know it or not, everyone has a contact list. And if that contact list is just the address book and your mobile phone, fine. But if you are leaving a firm where you've built up professional contacts and, in a way that wouldn't violate any sort of non-compete or employment contract that you have, you can take your contacts with you and let them know what you're doing. Email marketing is a very easy and cost-effective way to let people know, hey, I've switched firms, I have my own entity now, these are the practices that we offer, and you can click on them and it will drive the traffic to your new website so everyone can read more about it. And, I'm available for this, and this. This is my new location. Click here to email me, click here if you are interested in our services, and a few other noteworthy articles that are not totally self-serving, and you've got a decent email introductory piece to the beginning of what will be your e-newsletter list.
Okay. All right.
That's the easiest and cheapest to me, because you don't have to mail it, you don't have to print it. You just design a template, and there are drag and drop templates that you can even use that are free, and find an ESP, which is an email service provider. A program like MailChimp or Constant Contact or one of those. Many of those are free if you have under a certain amount of contacts. Like I started my list for my business with probably 300 contacts that I felt comfortable emailing with. I'm not going to blast all 10,000 lawyers I know without their permission, because it violates the Can-Spam Act. And it builds over time. And so you have your free email marketing software. You pay your little cost to have a template designed, and then you use the same template every month and add in your data yourself. And it monitors metrics just like Google Analytics. It'll tell you how many people clicked on your links and what links they clicked on, how many times they opened it, if they read it, if they unsubscribed from your list, they are asked to give a reason why. And so you get a lot of data from your existing list of contacts, both personal and professional, from sending something like that out for a very limited cost.
Right. I agree. I love email. It's awesome. And it's easy, and people open it too. People open their email. It's not the same as starting a Facebook account and trying to get people there. You have people's attention when you email them.
Especially if it's a targeted list of people that really do know about you and are somewhat invested in your success, that you've worked with them before, or they're your family members, or whatever it may be. It's not bad to have a small list, because your open rate and your metrics are going to be better if you have a very targeted list than if you just buy some huge list. There are all these services that offer list purchasing. Do not do that.
Right.
It's okay to start small and to build your list with your appropriate target audience over time.
Right. Okay. Let's say you. This will be my last hypothetical. Then we'll move on to something else. But let's say you don't have a list, or you're new, you're a relatively new attorney, and for whatever reason you've either decided to open your firm or you've kind of been forced to go out and do it on your own. What are some of the things that you would do in that case to kind of try to drum up some early business or just to make some money, you know?
So there is still tremendous value in face-to-face communications, especially down south. Our handshakes are still very valuable.
Right.
And I have heard from some of the most well-known trial lawyers that I've gotten to know in my career that the way they started building up their business was going into the offices of established attorneys and said, your smaller cases that you get, just give me a chance. Give me one case to work on referral, and I will work my heart out for you. And that lawyer will see that they're doing a very good job and will continue to send them business. And you just build up a referral base from going in and meeting with people and telling them what you're up to and working out a relationship that's mutually beneficial. You also can do that through professional association involvement. I mean, I wouldn't join every professional association that's out there because it can get very expensive, especially
Right.
when you're on a budget, when you're first starting your new firm. But I would pick at least one or two where you feel like you're going to reach a group of people that can either send you business or will know the type of people that you want to do business with and join them. I mean, some of them are as cheap to join as $200 a year. And attend and get involved, offer to serve on a committee, and
Right.
right where you're meeting people, and it's relatively inexpensive.
And when you're talking about, just to be clear, when you're talking about professional associations, you're not necessarily talking about like bar associations, right? You're talking about just outside, maybe if, let's say like a chamber of commerce or something like that. Is that?
I think that I would always do at least one industry-specific professional association. I have definitely had much success with my involvement in the legal industry professional associations that I'm involved in, but I am also involved in women-specific organizations and social causes and marketing groups, and being the only lawyer there sometimes is very valuable. People
Right.
will come to me with questions, and while I may not practice in that area, I send them to the people that I know that I think will do a good job for them. So just expanding your network and making sure that as you expand it, you connect with all of these people that you meet on LinkedIn. It's a professional network. People aren't going to be offended. You're not trying to get on their Facebook and see pictures of their family.
Right.
Use LinkedIn, lawyers. It is the only social network that I will mandate that you are on.
Okay. All right. So give us maybe give us a couple tips for, or maybe your process for using LinkedIn to get the most out of it. What are some of the things that you do for that? Because I'm curious about that, because I think LinkedIn is great, but I have some. I guess I'm just not sure how to use it to its full potential either. So I'd love to hear about that.
Well, what's interesting is that LinkedIn now has an advertising platform within it. And so you can pay and drill down into targeted demographic data to have your profile or advertisement, including video now, which is really new, show up to the audience that you're trying to reach. So say that you are someone who is sort of acts as outsourced general counsel, or you take on the litigation role for in-house or general counsel at businesses. You can target them based on the type of occupation they list or the companies for which they work with your advertisements, and it is so cheap. I mean, I'm talking pennies on the impression. So that's one way to get yourself seen. I would say that also you need to set up your profile as best you can, meaning add in all of the categories that it has, all your professional associations, your awards, honors, publications, speaking engagements. The more that you build this out as an online curriculum, vitae, or resume, the more legitimate you look, not only to potential referral sources, potential clients, but also to search engines, because it optimizes your profile for that content. It reads it as text. I would say use a current, not from 10 years ago when you looked really different, professional photograph.
Right.
Don't snap a selfie from above with your iPhone and throw that on LinkedIn. It looks like it's a selfie.
Right, right.
Personalize your headline. You have a certain number of characters that will show up in search results. You have a 120 character headline, and be concise as only the first few words show up. Use lawyer or attorney in the first 5 words. Say what you do in those 120 characters, but say the most important parts early on, because that's the only thing searchers see when they see their results. You can also customize your LinkedIn web address, the URL, right? So mine's LinkedIn/in/Stacey E. Burke. Get rid of all those extra letters and numbers that they give you that it defaults to. Make it your name, or make it Stacey Burke Attorney. It's easier to remember, it's shorter, and it says what it is. You also can build your network rather immediately if you've never used LinkedIn by exporting connections from your email marketing software, your address book. If you have a Rolodex, type them into an Excel spreadsheet and import them into LinkedIn, and it'll find your contacts and ask them to connect. You also can link your email addresses to LinkedIn, and so it will go through everyone you've ever emailed from those email accounts and ask you if you'd like to connect with them. So there's some tips.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. What as far as using LinkedIn, do you? I didn't LinkedIn stalk you, so I'm not sure how you use it. But do you like you have a blog? Do you post your blog posts on LinkedIn? Are you very active just from a usability standpoint on LinkedIn, or is it more of just meeting, making connections, and then I guess kind of reaching out to people off that platform?
So that is another great question, because there are people that use LinkedIn that I always call it, the expression diarrhea of the mouth. They get diarrhea
Right.
of the feed, and they will just like auto feed every blog post they write on their personal profile. Do not do that, because you'll just drive people nuts that connect with you. You have the ability to set up a company page for your business, and then people can choose whether or not they follow that, the same as a business page that you would have on Facebook. So I have a company page for my business where I select usually 2 to 4 posts a month, not all mine, some just content I think is valuable to the people that interact with me, and I share those on my company page. I will probably share an update to my personal feed twice a week, once as my content and once as content that I think is valuable. I think that if you're totally self-serving all the time and you automate your feeds to run through LinkedIn, you are not going to have success on that network.
Right. Okay, that's great. Okay, let's move from one social network to another. Let's talk about Twitter. You mentioned at the very beginning, and we're finally getting back around to it. I think you said, what do you say? It's your favorite tool for I don't know, being social on the internet, I guess. Tell me more.
So I guess I would say that Twitter has been something I've been able to use successfully for a very long time. I have been on the network for over 5 years, and I've spoken around the country on social media use for lawyers and law firms and the ethics associated therewith. I think that Twitter has probably the most significant potential to reach a wider variety of audience than any other social network that's out there right now. On LinkedIn, you're going to find professionals. But professionals, especially for me as a personal injury lawyer, they're not generally a significant percentage of my client base. So if I'm looking to provide valuable information to people who could potentially be my clients, or to reach the media, or even referral attorneys now, as more attorneys become active on Twitter, I would do it through Twitter. And I've had tremendous success with lists, targeted lists, where if I'm working on a pharmaceutical project, I will make my own targeted list of people who write specifically about pharmaceuticals, or law firms that are also working on that litigation. I'll monitor in real time that list to see what projects are coming up and what's going on with the FDA. You know, this is where you get your real-time news now. Twitter will have the news in many cases before TV, and you'll see pictures in real time of accidents, of things that are happening that are very important and very relevant. And if you know what to monitor and target your monitoring in real time, it's one of the most valuable tools out there.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you, and I think that man, the part about, you know, kind of getting inside the head of the industry by making a list and then seeing what's going on, that is solid gold content. And I want to, I guess, dive into if you could give just a real quick kind of step by step on how you would do something like that, for those people that are, you know, less familiar with it. I know, for example, I know you can search Twitter, you can make lists. Is that kind of what you would do? Would you just search for the keywords that you're looking for? Would you just try to identify?
Right. Yes, you're right. You can search within Twitter. You also would want to find in that search, or if you know who they are, influencers within that specific area that you're building a list for. Say I'm building a list on lawyers and social media. I have followed Nikki Black for years on Twitter, and she would definitely be on my list. Not only would she be on my list, she will have her own list, and I will follow her list to find even more influencers and go sort of down the rabbit hole from there. You also can follow state bar associations, local lawyer associations, and hear what events are going on. See who else is following them, because they're likely people like you that you can interact with. ABA Journal, National Law Review, law.com. I mean, it's endless as far as legal industry information that's available on Twitter. And not only does it help you monitor news and build your network, but if you're keeping a blog as a solo, which I am now, it gives you information to write about, right? You'll see what all these people are publishing news about, and you'll say, I can blog about that.
Right, definitely. And for everyone, and I'll put this in the show notes, but your Twitter handle is at Stacey E. Burke, right? On Twitter, so it'd be twitter.com/Stacey E. Burke. And I'm looking at it right now, and I think it's sometimes if you want to learn how to do these things, you should just go and look at someone that's using it well. So, I would just encourage everyone to go actually just look at her feed and follow her, first of all, and then look at what she's doing and the way that she is interacting with people that she's following or friends with, and then the way that she shares news, because there's a little bit of all of that here, and I think it's really great. It's something that I'm definitely trying to work on is using Twitter better, because I agree with you. I think it's a great platform to kind of reach people and to do things, but it's great. It's great. So go and look and go check her out right now. If you do anything else, since we just talked about it, while it's fresh in your mind, while you're listening to the podcast, pull it up and take a look at it. All right.
I appreciate that. And I would say once you feel comfortable with the network and you're sending things out on a regular basis, you will need to monitor key performance indicators associated with your account so that you can determine what's working and what's not. Just like you would with your Google Analytics for your website and the metrics that come in from your email marketing, Twitter has really great native analytics built into their application, which are free. And you need to look at the number of replies and mentions, the number of retweets and favorites, and how many times you're getting added to lists, and different metrics like this to see what content that you're pushing out is engaging, and do more of what works.
Right. Right. Fantastic. Yeah, Twitter's awesome. So all of you learn how to use it, because it's a game changer, and it's only going to get better as time goes by. Okay, so we're getting kind of close to the end. Your time in the hot seat is almost up. One of the things that I'm always interested about people are books, or the books that you're reading. I'm assuming that you've got something that you're reading, or something that's a favorite of yours. What pops into your head as far as reading materials go, just in general? They don't have to be necessarily business related, but some things that you're finding that are helping you, in life.
So right now I am actually reading a book called Pitch Perfect, and it's by Bill McGowan, I think is his name. Yeah, it's Bill McGowan. And he is sort of a consultant like I am for a variety of companies, including Facebook, and he has some very big clients, and he talks about how to give over what you're trying to say the right way, the first time, every time. Right. And I find that when I'm trying to give an elevator pitch about my business, a succinct statement of what I do, that I tend to go on and on. Sometimes your meetings with attorneys are very limited time-wise, because we all keep very busy schedules. And so I think there's always room to improve our communication skills and to give things over in a more concise and effective manner. So that's sort of my favorite book right now. I have also previously read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I hope I don't get laughs for that, but I think that it's a fabulous book for networking and business development. Dale Carnegie.
Yep, definitely. That's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. People that make fun of you about that are secretly reading it at home. It
has really valuable tips for even just how to remember people's names. I've met tens of thousands of lawyers at this point in my career, and it kind of gives you an advice on how to associate their name with something they say about themselves, so that you remember them the next time you see them. And it's proven effective and helpful for me.
Yeah, definitely. What about anything that you would consider, a Bible for your practice or your work? So for me, I send people a lot of times to like E-Myth Mastery, especially when they're first starting out, because I think it combines marketing and the need to make sure that you have your processes and your systems and your procedures in place to handle everything. Are there any books that really are foundational for you and what you do, and what you might recommend to somebody if they were looking to make their firm better?
Well, there's a book that I love and is one of my Bibles. It's not necessarily a classic, but it is an older book. It is specific to plaintiffs' lawyers, I would say, though. It's called You Can't Teach Hungry, Creating the Multi-Million-Dollar Law Firm. So I'm sure some of the advice is applicable to other practice areas, but this is John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan, one of the most successful plaintiffs' lawyers, who is totally self-made and built his firm from scratch, and he gives real, easy-to-read, concise, pertinent, and applicable tips for how to create, run, and monitor the effectiveness of your business. So I love that book as far as from a running your law firm standpoint.
Right.
As far as from the marketing side, I get most of that information online. I'm a big Feedly user, which is an RSS reader for those of you that may not know. And I subscribe to Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Watch, Copy Blogger. There are a lot of feeds that I read online, because that industry changes so much from day to day in the digital landscape. I think it's very important to read more online than you do offline.
Right, definitely. I agree. I love Copy Blogger. I'm not familiar with the other two, but Copy Blogger is definitely in my feed for sure because they're awesome and they give a lot of great tips and advice, I think, too, on the importance of copywriting, you
Yeah.
know, and on the importance of words and message and how you know how much if you take 20 minutes to think about a blog headline and if and that you use that 20 minutes wisely, it can make a huge difference in the trajectory of that post or your content, you know. And I think we forget about that sometimes because we're just in a rush to get something out there and something done, and we don't necessarily think about how the message is gonna be received, you know.
Mhm.
I love Copy Blogger. Okay, all right. So last question that I have for you is something I ask most people, and that is, what is the one question that I didn't ask you that I would have asked you, and then what's the answer to that question?
Hmm. I would say maybe my top 3 tips for how to make sure that the money that you're spending on marketing is being spent effectively, like kind of how to keep your vendors in check,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Um, you need to have one designated point of contact within your law firm, whether it's a partner, an associate, an office manager, or a paralegal, whoever is the most technologically sophisticated person that is the primary point of contact that has a regularly scheduled call or meeting with every vendor that you are spending money with at least once a month to kind of keep them in check. If you just let things run on autopilot, they are not going to pay as much attention to you, even though they say that they are. The person who gives them the poke gets the attention, and
Right.
they know that they could keep or lose your business at any time because you're monitoring what they're doing. So one is stay on top of them, and the person who stays on top of them has to know what they're talking about. Two is if you can, you will want to see who else they're working with. You do not want, if they'll do an exclusivity agreement with you, great. If they won't, you do not want to work with someone who's working with all of your competitors and sharing data from all of their accounts with other accounts. You want someone who, if you are a maritime practitioner like I was, it's an extremely competitive field to market in. I want someone who is only working on me for maritime, not my 10 biggest competitors also, and sharing data across all of those campaigns. So make sure you have a smart point of contact and try to get exclusivity or at least know what you're dealing with if you don't have it. And 3 is don't be afraid to change. You know if you are getting new leads coming in the door, and if it's not working, even if you have a contract, a long-term contract with a vendor, which I try to not make, don't be afraid to go after them if they're not holding up their end of the agreement, and don't be afraid to switch to a new vendor. It's that kind of a world out there. There are too many people that do marketing that are very good at marketing that you can use, that you don't need to remain with someone out of loyalty or because you feel trapped in a contract.
Okay, and then I have a quick follow-up for that because I'm interested in your perspective on that. When it comes to deciding to change, and I know it depends on what you're using, what kind of lead generation your tool you're using, but how long do you usually give someone to kind of produce results? You know, because let's say you're doing like an SEO campaign or something, right? That may take a couple of months at least before you see any traction, you know, and so you can you want to make, you know, there's a what's the story about there's always the guy, he's digging for gold and he's like a foot away and he quits. You know, you want to make sure that you're not there, right? So what is your advice as far as the timeline goes, or analyzing what's going on to make sure that you don't stop, just before you reach the gold?
So I would say that when you meet with potential candidates to take over, whether it's SEO, paid search, social media marketing, television advertising, you ask them, how long is it going to take me to saturate this market, or how long will it take before I will see results from this particular project, this protocol that you have that you're going to now put my website into for SEO. They better be able to back that up with a realistic response that you can hold them to, or they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
So I would ask them first, and then I would decide myself. For SEO, I would say 3 to 6 months. If you've spent 6 months with someone and you're not getting results, drop them.
Right. I would agree with that. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so that was awesome. Tons of great information and helpful advice and tips. So I really appreciate it. Before we go, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of let everyone know how they can be in touch with you if maybe they want to talk to you about getting some help or just interested in interacting with you. Where can they find you and talk to you? Give as many points of contact as you'd like.
Okay. So I'm Stacey, Stacey, Burke, Burke. I have my own website, staceyeburke.com. I'm on Twitter at Stacey E. Burke. I'm on LinkedIn as LinkedIn/in/Stacey E. Burke. You can email me at info@staceyeburke.com. I am on every social network and I'm pretty active. So if you look for a Stacey that's in law firm marketing or law firm business consulting, you will find me. And if I don't do or specialize in what you're looking for, 90% of the time I can send you to a fabulous person who can help you. So I'm always happy to make new connections and give out free advice to solos who are just starting out, as well as take on contracts with big firms. So I sort of run the gamut.
Cool. Yeah, you're people who know people, so it's okay to reach out to you, right? Because you can give help if you in any way. Okay, that's great. Well, I really appreciate your time, and that's a wrap. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that interview. I know I did. I always learn a ton when I talk to people, and I hope you did too. So, there's a bunch of good tidbits in there. There's a bunch of good action items. So I'd encourage you to, pick maybe 1 or 2 things that you liked out of the interview, and then go and pursue those things. Go and really do them. Before I let you go, one more time, I want to remind you about Law Firm Confidential. It really is a great site, and I'm really excited about it, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to help people probably just like you make more money with your law firm. Have more fun, live a better life, realize your dreams, get more clients. Do whatever you want to do. Instead of grinding, instead of worrying about when the phone's going to ring the next time, instead of wondering, if that next person you send that resume out, if they're going to call you back. So this is the site that's really developed for you, for the person that's starting a law firm, for the person that's struggling with their current law firm. I created this site to really share all of the things that I've learned over the last 6 years, really, of starting and building a successful law firm, which I've done. So if you're interested in that, go to lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/confidential, and you'll be on the list. I'll let you know when it opens up, and you can check it out. A part of what's going to happen with the people that are on that list is I'm going to kind of open the doors, let you see a little bit of the modules, let you get a feel for what's going on, so that you have an idea of exactly what it is. And basically every week I deep dive into one kind of subsection of what's going on. And I've started at the beginning like I was starting a law firm all over again, and I'm just working through. So right now, we're already into the marketing phase, right? So the people that are members right now have the ability to go out there and get new clients today. And if you want to do that, if you want to be a part of it, then I encourage you to take a look. It's not expensive at all. The value is ridiculous. It should be probably 10 times what I'm charging. But again, the value that I want to provide is great. And I know that when you're struggling, that it can be tough. So I want to provide some light at the end of the tunnel. I want to provide some help for people. So get out there and check it out. And that's it. So have a great week. Do something every day to move forward with your business, to reach your goals, whatever it is. Figure out what that small thing is and take a step. What they say about how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. One bite at a time. So with that, I will bid you adieu, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.